Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today's Monday, August 27th, 2012. I'm Darko. My website's ggnonline.com, and on YouTube, if you'd like to check it out, it's ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. So, this first video will be about Afghanistan, Syria, Iran, and hopefully Russia if we have time. One of the things I noticed recently in the media, mainstream media, just, RT, then you move over to this, and this is what Huffington Post, along with local media, right here in the newspapers. You can see it, local newspapers. Why is nobody talking about the Afghan war? Afghan war. Americans tune out as war fight rages on. So, the question is why are we seeing this? Americans ignore the war in Afghanistan despite 2,000 U.S. casualties. So this is after they already said they were pulling out. Okay, the war's over, right? They already told the Americans the war's over. So why would Americans be tuning out, and why is the media kind of pointing this out as if they're supposed to feel bad that the war so far has broke the record, right? As one of the longest wars. This was back said on June 7th, Afghanistan will complete its 104th month, the Afghan war, making it America's longest war. So, and this was in 2010. Let me try to get the date here for you. Yeah, 5/20/10. So there you go. So that was 2 years ago. So, when people ask, 12 years after it began, America's war in Afghanistan has all but approached a stalemate. Now the cost for such an outcome is once again being brought up after the number of U.S. casualties hits another milestone, so 2,000. So maybe this is why, because of their 2,000 casualty milestone. So it says here a 29-year-old, it says here he served in the U.S. Army for 5 years. Eastern Afghanistan says we all laugh about how no one really cares. He goes on and he talks about how he received letters from grade school students that were meant for the brave Marines in Iraq and not the troops such as himself stationed in Afghanistan. All the support the troops stuff is bumper sticker deep. So they don't support it. Unfortunately, we live in a dictatorship, so it doesn't really matter what we care, what we say, or anything. So it says here that this University of poll said that only 31% of registered voters say the U.S. should still be in Afghanistan, while 60% downright declaring that America should exit the Afghanistan or Afghan war completely. And they go on and talk about private contractors dying at rates similar to at the times in excess of soldiers. He says for the most part this substitution has taken place outside the cognizance of the public and potentially Congress. By continuing to outsource high-risk jobs that were previously performed by soldiers, the military in effect is privatizing the ultimate sacrifice. So, as far as the sacrifice, it's it's a sacrifice for the military-industrial complex, i.e. the private contractors. So, it just sucks having to say that, but everything that we went over there for is based off bullshit. It's all based off shit. And for 9/11, Taliban, whatever. I'm sorry. I don't buy the whole story. I really don't. With 9/11, with Bin Laden being in Iraq, with Bin Laden being in Afghanistan, with Bin Laden being tied to Al-Qaeda not being started by the CIA or intelligence agencies, that the Taliban wasn't created by the intelligence agencies. I can't put that out of my mind, right? That Iraq never had weapons of mass destruction, that Iraq was not responsible for 9/11, Afghanistan was not responsible for 9/11, and that really what we're there for is opium and heroin. That trade industry, we're there for the mining of rare minerals and for contracts, for making money off contracts. So, but you go in this localized article about Afghanistan, it says here, the public here is sick of it, and the Afghans are sick of us. The war is also being crowded by other issues, including the economy. That's right, because, Americans are starting to realize that the middle class is dying off, that their futures are not what they thought they were going to be. At least maybe the baby boomers. The baby boomers are kind of, for the most part, they're sitting sweet right now. It's the Generation Xers that I saw in another article calling us lazy and stuff. It's us that are going to get screwed over here in the long run. And the baby boomers, like my parents and that, they seem all right now. They don't seem to be affected by the economy. One's getting ready to get on a pension after retiring next year. The other's business is blooming. He does mutual funds, so it's just like, you know. But everybody else after that, it's going to be a world of hurt for them, I think. But they want, I don't know, I guess they want us to focus on these wars and stuff like that instead of what's going on at home. Obama, Afghanistan deaths top those of Bush. So it says here, now the longest conflict in U.S. history, the Afghan war has taken the lives of 2,000 Americans, half of whom were killed just in the past 2.5 years. So does that make Obama worse than Bush? No. Does it make Bush a great guy? No. They're both globalists that work for this basically globalist system. More U.S. military suicides and combat deaths in 2012. Now that's something that they're not talking about, why Americans are turning away, because more soldiers are fucking killing themselves than those are being killed in combat. That tells something that not even they want to be there, and they're not getting any support for it. But they keep pushing them back. It says here, green on blue, and these are volunteers. They're not even forced. So it goes to show you a lot. I mean, it is kind of a slap in the face for them as well. But, I mean, what are we going to do at home? You know what I mean? It says here, green on blue attacks in Afghanistan, says the data. So, yeah, it says here, attacks on coalition forces by Afghan forces, the so-called green on blue attacks, are emerging as a major threat. So, we're over there to help them. And then, yeah, of course, you have what? You have Afghan soldiers going in there and killing U.S. soldiers. So, another reason to be tuned out. Soldiers alleged Kandahar killing spree were warning signs missed. So, yeah, a deadly rampage by an American soldier killing 16 Afghan civilians, including women and children. So, another reason to tune out. Taliban responsible for 25% of the attacks on NATO troops. The Taliban, that's right. Now, the only problem with that is what? Is that Zbigniew Brzezinski, talking about these global technocrats, and that created Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. So, yeah, he's the Al-Qaeda's and Taliban's founding father, Zbigniew Brzezinski. So, and he's also Barack Obama's top foreign policy advisor. So if you want to look at the people that are really responsible, you can look at the dictators, these technocrats. They're on, you can turn on your TV and see them once in a while on MSNBC or something like that, give them an interview. And everyone looks to him as the granddaddy, oh, he just knows so much. How does he know so much? Well, they're creating the future for you. They're designing it. And he actually wrote a book about it, The Grand Chessboard, and talking about pawns. He goes here, he likens the geopolitics and globalist strategies to moving pieces on a chessboard. What he fails properly to address is that the pawns who are being played, these pawns are millions of human beings who have died as a result of these formulated wars and secret agendas to create a global imperial power structure with America, Israel at its apex. So all those soldiers that have died, thank Brzezinski. It says here, U.S. troops punished over Koran burning urination video. That's another reason to tune out. Talking about burning the Koran and peeing on the dead corpses by U.S. troops. Afghan endgame, enter Russia. So the Afghan endgame is on real earnest. It says here the first regional strategic chessboard, and perhaps the next episode of the Great Game has been initiated. So talking about the chess game, right? It says by arrogantly and unjustly bludgeoning Pakistan into submission, the U.S. may have literally forced out this dysfunctional unilateral non-alliance and set the stage for a decisive paradigm shift in the geopolitics of the region. It says here, critically, it may have made Pakistan susceptible to Russian overtures. So you can come check this out. The links will be posted in YouTube's video description. They're talking about SCAR, South Central Asia region, is currently in a state of flux. And basically they're talking about Russia getting in there and becoming allies with Pakistan, nuclear Pakistan. Especially when the United States is acting as if they're trying to help Pakistan, but at the same time, along with the intelligence agencies, are drone bombing and killing people. They title them militants, and they even say that they killed the leaders. So when they kill people and the civilians, and the Pakistanis get really pissed off, and they say, why is our government allowing this? They can't do anything about it either over there. So you know what I mean? It's the same thing everywhere. And so this is what they do. They say, oh, we killed a leader. We killed the Al-Qaeda leader. When they really didn't, and that's to bolster support and legitimize the CIA drone strikes on civilians. So, key commander in the Pakistani-based militant Haqqani network has been killed by a U.S. drone strike. Well, actually, they're saying they didn't. The Taliban denies this Haqqani's death. Says Afghan ministry claims he was slain in recent drone strike, but despite claims, it says here, the Taliban issued a statement today insisting that he's alive and well and healthy. It says the rumor about him being killed is more propaganda of the enemy, insists the spokesman. So it would not be the first time a militant was, quote, confirmed killed by a drone strike, turned out to be alive. and indeed some have been killed several times. 17 Afghan civilians beheaded for dance parties. So is this more propaganda? I mean, this sucks. Yeah, it sucks that the Taliban, that was created by the Brzezinskis and all of them, are now basically they don't have control over them. I mean, you read the Council on Foreign Relations own press releases, they're saying that they don't have control over this right now. So they put out this, and this is why I think it's propaganda. Death threats force Afghan actress into hiding. So even without the Taliban, I still think that this country would be somewhat conservative as far as their Muslim roots go, but I don't think it would be going this far. So that's why I think it's propaganda. Israeli police arrest suspects in firebomb attack. It says Israeli police say they arrested 3 Jewish youths. Yeah, I said youths from a West Bank settlement as suspects in a firebomb attack that wounded 6 Palestinians in a taxi. It says extremists Israeli settlers often attack Palestinians and their property as part of a campaign they call the price tag retaliation for either army action against settlers or Palestinian attacks. So you have this. Israeli warplanes attack north of Gaza Strip. Warplanes launched at least 3 airstrikes on several targets in north of Gaza. It says here that also assassinated Islamic Jihad member in Egypt. A member of the Palestinian resistance movement has been killed in an Israeli drone strike inside Egypt. More Israeli news. Israeli vets, the Israeli Defense Forces, confessed to no mercy abuse of Palestinian terrorist kids. Israeli veterans have spoken out describing a degrading culture of abuse and harassment of Palestinian children. It says here in the West Bank and Gaza, a report containing 30 veterans' testimonies details numerous cases of violence committed by Israeli soldiers. It says here that a first sergeant in Armored Corps described his job as population control in a testimony entitled, "What is that job really?" He goes on here, he says he would enter Palestinian villages on a daily basis to make their presence felt, show the local residents that they did not belong to them, the area did not belong to them. He said a patrol goes in, or 2 patrols, 2 Hummers secured by a Jeep, and raise hell inside the villages. He said a whole company may be sent in on foot in 2 lines like a military parade in the streets, provoking riots, provoking children, said the first sergeant. And I believe the average age is like 18 there, so it's basically a bunch of young people whose families have been broken apart, throwing rocks at tanks. I saw a documentary on it recently. It says here he said that the commander's aim was to grind the population down so that they would not even think of throwing stones at their occupiers. So there you go. Syria says they can destroy Israeli nuclear facilities with 20 missiles, boasts ambassador to Jordan. So it says here they received $20 million in exchange for his defection. Yeah, I don't know if you remember the Hezbollah leader saying that he would turn Israel into a living hell or something like that, hell on earth, if they keep up what's going on in Lebanon and or strike Iran. So in response to this, Israel is having an exercise responding to multiple rocket landings. They're holding drills simulating evacuation of casualties from several locations in the event of an unconventional rocket salvo. So it says here it's a first of its kind. And what they're simulating, of course, is what? Chemical warheads from Syria. So you talk about propaganda, crackdown toll seen as Syrians bury hundreds. So there's supposedly reports coming out that the smell of death is in the air in Syria. So talk about mass burials, show the carnage of the past few days in gruesome details. And this article goes on and basically blames what? The Syrian military, the Syrian government. I'm not over there. I can't tell you personally. The Assad forces killed them in cold blood. They just killed them without any pretext. I have a hard time believing in a lot of this stuff that comes over to the West, though, because I've just read recent articles that basically said, 2 of them, they were different journalists covering this, going along with the Syrian government, and they're telling the story that I've been telling for the past bunch of months, which is these guys are basically rats, these mercenaries, terrorists, rebels, and they go through neighborhood, and they put people and civilians in the crossfire, and they blame it on the government. And they're the ones that are actually torturing, cutting off fingers. But maybe it's going on both sides, I don't know. But either way, this is what the West and the globalists want. They want to just starve these people out and just break the will of them so that they'll surrender to them. Rebels down Syrian army helicopter in Damascus. So yeah, they said following the day after, this is a Jerusalem Post, that Assad's forces killed 320 in execution style. Let's not forget the CIA actually smuggled 14 Stinger missiles into Syria so rebels can take out regime warplanes. But the British newspaper is now claiming Western troops are in Syria, SAS. You can join me in part 2 and we'll finish up with this. Thank you.